Samson, briefly, I think that the president's statement is quite misleading if he states emphatically that there was or is no consensus on the matter of electing MMDCEs. I think that there is consensus. The only difference is whether or not we should have MMDCEs elected on partisan basis or otherwise. And during the proposed referendum to amend Article 55(3), yes, I remember the NDC at some point came out to say, well, they are opposed to it and therefore would urge their members to vote no. And they also made it clear that it wasn't because they are opposed to the whole idea of electing MMDCs, but their point was that it should be done in a non-partisan way so that people will not contest for MMDCEs on the tickets of MPP, NDC, APC, and so on and so forth. And the argument they made at the time was that it would be an extension of, the violent scenes that we see during national elections being extended to the district level. And we need some level of cohesion and all of that at the district level. For the president and those who were in support of his position, the idea was that, well, we needed to vote to have MMDCEs on the basis of NDC, MPP, and so on and so forth. And they went on to say that, yes, even though that may result in the fact that if you take voter region, for example, at the moment, we would end up having DCEs who are aligned to the NDC. What that will give us is some sort of power sharing, so that the whole idea that the president is too powerful, appoints almost everyone, and so on, would be diminished. So there is consensus when it comes to electing our MMDCEs. Where there is no consensus is whether or not it should be done on a partisan basis or not. And I have said that, well, my view is that it shouldn't be done on a partisan basis. And on that score, if we would want to have it done in terms of elections, it's not just the case of Article 55(3). I think it's about Article 234(1), which actually makes it possible for Parliament to make an amendment, because that particular provision is not an entrenched provision. And for that reason, Parliament can make changes to that particular clause, which says that there shall be a district chief executive for every district who shall be appointed by the president with the prior approval of not less than 2/3 of majority of members of the assembly. And so once it is not an entrenched clause, it's just by having Parliament to do it. So if the president is indeed committed to the principle of having our MMDCEs elected, nothing stops him from making a proposal for Parliament to amend Article 2431, basically to read something like there shall be a chief executive for every district who shall be elected by qualified voters in a particular district through universal adult suffrage. And there we go, to have our MMDCEs elected, so that we'll have them just as we have the assembly members. Because when you go around, you don't have an NDC assemblyman, MPP assemblyman, even though we know that behind the scenes, the political parties sponsor, candidates to contest. And at the end of every district assembly elections, parties are able to tell whether they've lost on the ground or they are winning on the ground.
And that is breaching the law.
Yeah, that's breaching the law.
Yes, but